What's the craziest thing that has happened to you live on stage? Okay, so we had 10 dancers with me.
The world thinks it knows Reba McEntire, the unstoppable country queen with the fiery red hair, the $1 million smile, and a career that survived every storm imaginable. But behind the sold-out arenas and television fame is a woman carrying heartbreaks she rarely speaks about publicly. One marriage left her feeling invisible. Another ended in a way she never saw coming. And through all the success, all the loss, and all the years that passed, there was one man whose place in her heart never truly faded. Now, at 71, we finally know the man who changed her life forever. The rise of Reba McEntire. For more than 4 decades, Reba McEntire has been one of the most recognizable voices in country music. She has sold millions of records, won countless awards, and built an empire that extends far beyond the stage. But behind the red hair, and the sparkling gowns, and the signature smile, her personal life has been marked by struggles that her fans never saw coming. She has buried band members, endured a painful divorce, and carried secrets about love that she kept hidden for years. Reba Nell McEntire was born on March 28, 1955, in McAlester, Oklahoma. She came into the world as the daughter of a world champion steer roper named Clark McEntire and a schoolteacher named Jacqueline. Her mother encouraged all of her children to sing, and music filled the McEntire household the way sunlight fills a room. Reba grew up on a ranch in the small town of Chalky, Oklahoma, where the work was hard and the days started early. She learned resilience before she learned how to read sheet music, and that toughness would serve her well when the music industry tried to break her. As a child, she sang with her siblings Susie and Pake in a family group called the Singing McEntires. They performed at local events and rodeos, and Reba discovered that she loved the feeling of a crowd watching her. She attended Southeastern Oklahoma State University, earning a degree in elementary education, while continuing to chase her musical dreams. She was practical enough to have a backup plan, but stubborn enough to hope she would never need it. Her first real break came in 1974, when she sang the national anthem at the National Finals Rodeo in Oklahoma City. A country singer named Red Steagall was in the audience, and something about her voice made him stop what he was doing. He helped her record a demo, and the wheels of the industry began to turn. But progress was slow. Her first single, a song called I Don't Want to Be a One-Night Stand, failed to find an audience in 1976. The albums she recorded under Mercury Records between 1977 and 1983 had limited success. She was a woman trying to make it in a man's world, and the doors did not open easily. Reba later said that she had 2 strikes against her from the start. She was female, and she was unknown. The top songwriters in Nashville did not want to give their best material to someone who had not proven herself, and the radio programmers were hesitant to play a woman's voice between the male stars who dominated the airwaves. But Reba refused to quit. She kept recording, kept touring, and kept believing that someone would eventually hear her. The breakthrough came in 1982, when a song called Can't Even Get the Blues became her first #1 single on the Billboard country charts. She was 27 years old, and she had been chasing this moment for nearly a decade. 2 years later, she switched to MCA Records, where she was given more creative control over her music. The album that followed, My Kind of Country, showcased a traditional sound that reminded listeners why they had fallen in love with country music in the first place. Her reputation grew, and the awards began to pile up. In 1986, a song called Whoever's in New England earned her the first Grammy Award of her career for Best Female Country Vocal Performance. The Country Music Association named her Female Vocalist of the Year for 4 consecutive years, from 1984 to 1987. No one had ever dominated the category like that before. She was no longer a woman trying to break into the industry. She was the industry. But success did not shield her from tragedy. In 1991, a plane crashed and killed 7 of her band members along with her tour manager. The loss was devastating, the kind of blow that would have ended lesser careers. Reba was shattered, but she kept going. She continued performing because she did not know what else to do with her grief. The music became her way of honoring the people she had lost. Over her career, she has placed more than 100 singles on the Billboard country charts, with 25 of them reaching #1. She has sold over 75 million records worldwide, making her one of the best-selling country artists of all time. She has acted in films like Tremors and starred in her own sitcom, Reba, which ran for 6 seasons. She owns restaurants and clothing lines and has been inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. But through all of that success, Reba McEntire has carried a quiet memory in her heart. She has fallen in love more than one time. Some of those loves brought her joy, and some brought her heartbreak that took years to heal. And it all began with one man who taught her what love was about. Reba's first love. Before the Grammys and the sold-out arenas and the television sitcom that made her a household name, Reba McEntire was just a young woman from Oklahoma who fell in love with a rugged cowboy. His name was Charlie Battles, and he was everything she thought she wanted in a man. He was strong, quiet, and comfortable in boots and a saddle. He had lived a life that she barely understood, full of rodeo circuits and military service and the kind of hard work that leaves a mark on a person. She was 21 years old when she married him, young enough to believe that love could conquer anything. However, she would spend the next 11 years learning that love is not always enough. Charlie Battles made his living as a champion steer wrestler, competing in rodeo arenas across the United States. He was good at what he did, strong and fast and fearless. Before he ever met Reba, he had served in the United States Army from 1962 to 1965, working as an armor intelligence specialist stationed in Germany. He had come home from the service and built a life for himself that included a first marriage and 2 sons, Lance and Cody. He was already a father when Reba entered the picture, and that fact would shape their relationship in ways neither of them fully understood at the time. Reba met Charlie in the mid-1970s through the rodeo circuit. She was a young singer trying to get her career off the ground, and he was a seasoned competitor who had been around the block more than a few times. She admired him from a distance at first, drawn to his rugged charisma and his confidence. They bonded over their shared love of ranching and rodeo life. The relationship grew serious after Charlie separated from his first wife. By the time she said yes to his proposal, Reba was certain that she had found the man she would grow old with. They married on June 21, 1976, and they settled on a ranch in Stringtown, Oklahoma. Reba tried to balance her budding music career with the demands of running a cattle ranch and being a stepmother to Charlie's 2 sons. But it was not easy. She struggled to bond with the boys, who were already set in their ways and did not seem interested in welcoming a new woman into their father's life. The family she had imagined for herself never quite materialized. The signs of trouble appeared early, though Reba did her best to ignore them. Charlie's protectiveness, which had seemed sweet during their courtship, began to feel controlling. He resented the time she spent away from the ranch, and he resented the band members and producers who seemed to take up more and more of her attention. He clashed with her band and humiliated her publicly, calling her names that she could not forget, no matter how hard she tried. She felt excluded from the family life she had married into. There was one moment that stayed with her for years. Charlie once told her that there was no room for her in the truck, when he took his sons to feed the cattle. She was his wife, yet she was being told that she did not fit. There were financial issues as well. Reba later reported that Charlie took money from her purse without asking. It was not about the amount. It was about the lack of respect, the assumption that what was hers was also his. The emotional distance between them grew wider with each passing year, and Reba found herself feeling like an outsider in her own marriage. She was sleeping next to a man who did not see her, eating dinner at a table where she did not belong, waking up in a house that never quite felt like home. By the early 1980s, as Reba's career began to soar with her move to MCA Records and the release of hit albums, the tensions between them escalated. Charlie struggled with living in her shadow. He had been the star of his own world for so long, and now his wife was becoming famous in ways that he could not compete with. The conflicts became more frequent, the silences longer. They divorced in 1987 after 11 years of marriage. Reba was 32 years old, and she was starting over. She later described the divorce as painful, but necessary. It was not something she had wanted, not something she had planned for. But staying would have cost her something that she was not willing to lose. The marriage had taught her hard lessons about independence and self-worth. Lessons that would shape the woman she became. She walked away from Charlie Battles with a broken heart, but a clear head. She knew now what she would not accept in a partner. The divorce marked a turning point. She gained independence and focused fully on her career. But she did not close herself off to love. A few years later, she met a man who would change everything. A man who would stand by her side for 26 years and teach her what it really meant to be loved. The man who changed everything. After the pain of her first marriage, Reba McEntire was not looking for love. She was looking for stability, for someone who could help her manage a career that was growing faster than she could keep up with. She found that person in a steel guitar player named Narvel Blackstock. He was quiet and capable, and did not seem interested in the spotlight. He was exactly what she needed at a time when her life felt like it was spinning in too many directions at once. What started as a professional partnership slowly became something deeper, and before she knew it, Reba had found the man who would stand beside her for 26 years. Narvel Wayne Blackstock began his career as a musician, playing steel guitar in country bands. He was good enough to earn a spot in Reba's band in the early 1980s, and he quickly proved that his skills went far beyond music. He had a head for organization and a calm way of handling problems that impressed everyone who worked with him. He became her tour manager, and then he became something closer to a partner. He was there for her during the difficult days of her divorce from Charlie Battles, offering support without expecting anything in return. Before he met Reba, Narvel had been married to a woman named Elisa Gale Ritter. That marriage lasted from 1973 to 1988 and produced 3 children, Chastity, Shauna, and Brandon. When Narvel and Reba began their relationship, he was a father of 3 who understood what it meant to put family first. He was not a young man looking for adventure. He was a settled man looking for a partner who could match his dedication and his drive. The romance between them grew slowly, the way a good fire grows from a single spark. They spent so much time together on the road, sharing hotel rooms and bus rides and late-night conversations about everything and nothing at all. Reba came to trust him in a way that she had never trusted anyone before. In 1989, she told a reporter that she loved him and trusted him very much, and that he helped her an awful lot. The words were simple, but the feeling behind them was not. She had found someone who saw her as more than a singer or a brand or a woman who needed saving. He saw her as a partner, and that made all the difference. They married on June 3, 1989, in a private ceremony at Lake Tahoe, Nevada. The wedding was intimate, attended only by close family and friends. There were no television cameras, no magazine deals, no public spectacle. It was just two people making a promise to each other, away from the noise of the world that was always trying to claim them. Reba became a stepmother to Narvel's 3 children, and she took the role seriously. She wanted them to feel loved and welcome, even as she was building an empire that demanded most of her waking hours. Less than a year later, on February 23, 1990, they welcomed a son together. They named him Shelby Stephen McEntire Blackstock. Reba was 35 years old, and becoming a mother for the first time shifted something inside her. She had wanted a child for so long, and now that he was here, she could not imagine her life without him. Shelby would grow up to pursue a career in professional car racing, competing in Indy Lights and other series. Reba has always spoken proudly of his independence and his achievements, noting that he made his own way in the world without relying on her name. Together, Reba and Narvel built Starstruck Entertainment, a company that managed her career and eventually expanded to represent other artists. Narvel oversaw her tours, her albums, and her branding. He helped her navigate the complicated waters of an industry that had not always been kind to her. Under his management, she achieved some of the biggest successes of her career. Their partnership lasted 26 years, blending marriage and business in a way that few couples have ever managed. Reba often credited Narvel with helping her maintain her success during the 1990s and 2000s. He was the engine behind the throne, the quiet force that kept everything running while she stood in the spotlight. She trusted him completely, and that trust was the foundation of everything they built together. But even the strongest foundations can crack. After more than 2 decades of marriage, something changed between them. The divorce that followed was not something Reba ever wanted, and the reason for it was not what the tabloids imagined. The divorce she never wanted. For 26 years, Reba McEntire and Narvel Blackstock had been more than husband and wife. They were business partners, creative collaborators, and the kind of couple that seemed immune to the divorces that had taken down so many other country music marriages. Reba trusted him completely. She had built her empire with his help, and she believed that their partnership would last forever. But forever came to an end in the summer of 2015 when Narvel told her that he wanted out. The divorce was not her idea. She did not want it in any shape, form, or fashion. And the years that followed would force her to learn things about herself that she had never needed to know before. Looking back, Reba could see that things had started going wrong long before the public knew anything was amiss. Their relationship had become heavily business-oriented, with Narvel managing her career through Starstruck Entertainment while also serving as her husband. The lines between work and home had blurred so completely that it was hard to tell where one ended and the other began. As Reba's career expanded into acting, Broadway, and business ventures, the emotional distance between them grew. They were spending less time together as a couple and more time together as CEO and artist. The separation was announced publicly in August of 2015, after months of speculation from fans and tabloids. The joint statement that went out to the press was carefully worded. Despite this being the end of their marriage, it read, "They continued to support each other. They had worked together for 35 years and would continue to do so." The words were professional and polite, but they could not hide the shock that rippled through the country music community. This was not a couple anyone expected to split. Reba later confessed that the divorce was devastating because it had not been her choice. She would have fought to save the marriage, if she had been given the chance. But Narvel was the one who initiated the separation. And once he made his decision, there was nothing she could do to change his mind. She was blindsided, left to pick up the pieces of a life that had been built around his presence. The settlement that followed was staggering. Narvel walked away with $47.5 million, nearly half of Reba's fortune at the time. His net worth after the divorce was estimated at $50 million, bolstered by the payout and his career as a producer. Reba was forced to do something she had never done before. She had to take control of her own finances. For 35 years, Narvel had handled the money. He paid the bills, managed the investments, and made sure everything ran smoothly. After he left, Reba had to learn how to write a check and read a bank statement. She started realizing how much water cost, and the electric bill, and all the things that were going on in her life. It was humbling, and it was terrifying. The divorce felt like a cold and impersonal transaction. Narvel was not just her husband, he was also her manager, and losing him meant losing the entire team that had supported her for decades. "Everybody took care of everything," she later said. "All I had to do was get up and sing." When that dissolved, all that team went with him. She felt abandoned and deserted, left alone to figure out how to run an empire that she had never fully understood. The adjustment was really hard. There were nights when she wondered if she would ever feel whole again. But the divorce forced her to grow in ways that a comfortable marriage never could have. She learned to manage her own money. She learned to trust her own instincts. She learned that she was capable of surviving without the man who had been her anchor for more than half her life. Narvel reportedly began a relationship with a woman named Laura Putty Stroud, who had been a friend of Reba's after the separation. The timing of that relationship intensified the sense of betrayal. Reba did not speak publicly about the details, choosing instead to take the high road. But the hurt was real, and it took years to heal. Reba has since acknowledged that the marriage had become more of a business arrangement than a romantic partnership. The love that had once burned so brightly had dimmed over time, replaced by schedules and contracts and the relentless demands of fame. Narvel's decision to leave was the ultimate cause, leaving Reba with no choice but to accept the separation. She did not want to sign the papers, but she signed them anyway. For a while, she wondered if she would ever love again. She was in her 60s, divorced twice, and tired in ways that had nothing to do with the stage. But life had one more surprise waiting for her. A few years after the divorce, she met a man who reminded her that love was still possible. And this time, she was the one who got to decide how the story would end. The love she found later. After the heartbreak of her divorce, Reba McEntire was busy rebuilding her life, learning to manage her own money, and figuring out who she was without Narvel Blackstock by her side. The idea of falling in love again felt like something that happened to other people, not to a woman in her 60s who had been hurt twice before. But life has a way of surprising people when they least expect it. A few years after the divorce, Reba reconnected with an old acquaintance, and what started as a simple dinner invitation turned into the kind of love she had been searching for her whole life. The man who captured her heart was Rex Linn. He was an actor, best known for his roles in CSI, Miami, Better Call Saul, and Young Sheldon. Like Reba, he came from Oklahoma, and that shared background gave them an immediate connection. They understood each other in a way that people who grew up elsewhere never could. They had first met in 1991 on the set of a Kenny Rogers television movie called The Gambler Returns, The Luck of the Draw. They were friendly acquaintances for decades, crossing paths at industry events and saying hello whenever their careers brought them together. But nothing romantic ever happened between them. The timing was never right. Then came January of 2020. Reba and Rex found themselves working together on the set of a movie, and something felt different. Rex invited her to dinner and she said yes. The meal was easy and comfortable, the kind of evening where two people realize that they have been missing something without knowing it. The romance sparked quickly, and then the world shut down. The pandemic forced them into long-distance dating, with travel restrictions and rules keeping them apart for weeks at a time. But the distance did not weaken their bond. It deepened it. They spent hours on the phone every day, sending texts and sharing stories and learning everything there was to know about each other. By the time the world opened up again, they were already in love. Rex gave Reba a nickname after their first dinner together. He called her Tater Tot, a silly and affectionate name that made her laugh. She called him Sugar Tot in return. Their relationship was fun and supportive and full of laughter, a welcome contrast to the business-like partnership that had defined her previous marriage. Reba said that every day felt like Valentine's Day with Rex, and she meant it. On Christmas Eve of 2024, Rex proposed to her at their Tennessee ranch. The setting was quiet and private, just the two of them, and the land they loved. She said yes. They announced their engagement publicly in September of 2025, and the news made headlines across the country. Fans who had watched Reba suffer through her divorce were thrilled to see her happy again. The wedding plans reflected who they were as a couple. They decided to hold the ceremony at their ranch in Tennessee, surrounded by the animals and the open land that had become their sanctuary. Reba said it would be a non-traditional wedding because that was what suited them. They liked comfort, they loved their friends, and they loved good food. She did not want a stiff, formal affair with strangers serving champagne. She wanted a party where everyone felt at home. In October of 2024, at 69 years old, Reba told a magazine that she had 2 great jobs and the love of her life. She said it plainly, without hesitation or embarrassment. Rex Linn was not just a boyfriend or a fiancé. He was the man who had restored her faith in love, the one who made her believe that happiness was still possible after all the pain. As of 2026, Reba is still working hard. She stars in an NBC sitcom called Happy's Place, which was renewed for a 3rd season. She continues her philanthropy, supporting rural communities, women in agriculture, and music education. She is busier than ever, but she is also happier than ever. She has learned to balance work and love in a way that eluded her for most of her life. The first love she ever had taught her what it meant to lose something precious. The second love taught her what she would not accept in a partner. But this love, the one she found later when she was not looking for it, has taught her that it is never too late to start over. Reba McEntire spent decades singing about heartbreak and resilience and the kind of love that lasts forever. Now, at last, she is living the song. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more updates.